The CGA Tour, a podcast unlike any other. Now your host, Calvin Alexander.
Welcome back to the latest episode of the CGA Tour podcast. I'm your host, Calvin Glen Alexander, and this is another episode of the Big Three in OKC. So I am rejoined by frequent co-hosts here, Joel DeNicolo and Zev Stein. On the latest episode. Normally, guys, I have previously asked, hey, how's it going? How's your weekend? We record this on Thursday nights. Your weekend's a distant memory at this point. You're just looking forward to the next weekend coming up. I have discovered that from asking previously here. So I'm just going to ask you at this instead, Zev. What are you looking forward to doing this weekend?
What am I looking forward to doing this weekend?
Yeah, Zev's pandemic-ish times, Oklahoma City.
Right.
Yeah.
Well, depending on if it's still rainy here in Oklahoma, that kind of is a big if. But if it's nice, I want to go out to Stanley Draper Lake again. Went out there a couple weekends ago and had a great time. I think I'm going to try to do that again.
Nice. Joel, what about you? Any weekend plans coming up?
Yes. However, last weekend I did hang out with Mexican Dirk Nowitzki.
Oh, tell us more about.
So my wife's family is from Dallas, and we go down there quite often. And there's a Mexican restaurant down there that they've been knowing about. They introduced it to me here in the last few years, and I took a major loving for it, because when you go into the restroom at this restaurant called Gonzalez's, there is a Mexican Dirk Nowitzki painted on the wall in the men's restroom at this restaurant. So every time we say, hey, what do y'all want to eat? I say, hey, we're going to go see Mexican Dirk. So I got to eat at Mexican Dirk's restaurant.
That's amazing.
Well, that is definitely better than any of my weekend plans. So I will have to say, I also did not have a chance to show what my son, University of Texas of Dallas. Is that where you guys went?
Oh yeah,
all the college prospects in there.
Yeah, yep. We did go down to UTD, check it out. My stepson is a sophomore in high school, so we're just getting the gears turning, and he wants to go into engineering. And UTD has a beautiful campus, 3 huge buildings dedicated to engineering. So it's a leading option. Again, obviously we're a couple years away, but he seemed very intrigued by the campus and what they had to offer. We just went on a Sunday; it was a beautiful day, but we were walking around UTD down there, man. I couldn't believe how that school, for obviously, of course, you guys are college educated. That's the campus, the school itself is only 50 years old, which in college terms is very new.
Yeah, it's very new.
So all the buildings just look, it reminds me like if I've never been to Apple or Google, but it looked like what I would imagine Apple or Google would look like. Everything's just brand new around there.
Bunch of windows, bunch of natural light is being let in from an architectural standpoint. Well, nice. Well, cool. Hopefully he can play for UTD too, right? Yeah.
Yeah. So UTD is the first D3 school campus I've ever been on. So obviously we have 0 D3 schools here in Oklahoma. So I have little to no experience of any D3 action. But I'm sure you both know D3 college teams don't offer athletic scholarships. So they get all the either really, really smart kids or the really, really rich kids.
Huh.
Well, shout out to your stepson. Hopefully he can get on the roster there, and we can get some great UTD D3 stories. He can join the Duncan Robinson route, go with D3 to the pros. But anyways, with all that being said, I guess here, I did want to add one more topic here last second, but that is the topic of the day, and that is, what do we have from the news for OKC fans? So, good old Thunder insider Joe Musato, I believe that's how you pronounce his last name. He wrote an article of, yesterday, I guess. It came out in the Oklahoma today saying Dort gives OKC more than defense. And what he's discussing is that Lou Dort had a career high of 42 points in a Thunder loss to the Jazz in Salt Lake City. And then, it's only by 10. Of course, I don't think Joe was able to submit it late enough, but the Thunder did lose by 48, I believe, or 38 to the Warriors.
38, yeah.
38. Thank you. Just to be clear. So anyways, Dort gives OKC more than defense. Zev, what are your reactions here to the headline, all type of stuff, article, etc.?
I like it. I like the article, and it's kind of like a vindicating moment to be a Thunder fan in this like dark season, not dark season, rebuilding season, because it's like the shooting guard we've been waiting for since Thabo Sefolosha had cornrows, and it's like, yeah, exactly,
Yeah.
and it's like I love watching a player who gives like 100%, more than 100% effort on defense, and then he goes and gets his own on offense. Like, he doesn't just shoot threes now. He's actually dribble driving. He's kicking it out. He's taking charges like a madman. It is crazy. Like, he's just all effort, and I feel like he's the shooting guard that we've been trying to figure out how to mold or get. Because, you know, we tried with Sefolosha, we tried with Robertson. Oof. Big ol' oof. And so it's nice to finally see like an actual, not just three.
Where's Andre at? Where's Andre at right now?
He is on the Oklahoma. I mean the Brooklyn Nets.
I don't think so.
He's not anymore. He got cut.
Oh, was he cut? Okay.
He was.
He was originally traded there.
Yes. Well.
So where's he at?
he's dating NBA 2K star Rachel Demita.
Seriously?
I'm dead serious. That's the latest information. When you Google Andre Robertson, it's the latest information. I pulled it up here. So
yeah, well, it's just, I don't know. Like I'm just happy about it. I just hope that he can keep it up, and if they're worried about injuries again, that they will sit him and not risk the future for him getting stats this season. But I'm really happy with it.
Well, so you asked a question pre-podcast. So I definitely want Joel's answer to, and I'm thinking my answer will be closer to Joel's. But if you want to re-ask it now,
okay. Is there? I should ask it like this: is there any Kawhi comparison to Lou Dort?
Wow.
I feel like there's a very, very small percentage that we could see a Lou Dort-esque couple of games that are Kawhi-esque, right? Like, Kawhi is such a unique and individual player, all type of stuff, but, I mean, he's just like a physical, like, freak at the end of the day. Like, his hands are, huge, all type of stuff, etc. Like, there's all this, everything like that. He can't ever make a plane flight on time, makes all his team wait for him, if anyone's read the articles from The Athletic about that, from the Clippers last year. Kawhi currently lives in the same neighborhood that my grandfather used to live in San Diego, and then drove to LA for the games. Like, this man lived in San Diego. It is a separate city from LA, and no one's going to tell me North San Diego is it's a short drive. It's an hour plus without traffic, guys. Yeah. It's a plane flight for this idea. But anyways, regardless here, Lou Dort has been amazing for the Thunder. And I think one of the things right now that I know when I watch the Thunder play is there's somebody who has to score, right? In this game that Lou Dort scored 42, he counted for almost 44% of the Thunder's points that night, right? I mean, almost half. He counted for 43.75% of the points for that game for the Thunder. So someone's got to do something. Lou Dort clearly has the scoring ability. I think iso ball is being taught more and more and more in the lower levels, middle school, high school, and type of stuff, versus conventional, just kind of, running plays out of timeouts, running pick and rolls and screens necessarily. I think it's iso ball is taught more and more so these guys can score. But with all that being said, we clearly can see Lou Dort can just hit threes, and that's something that we've always wanted from a two guard in the past. We wanted Lou Dort to just go off from three. He almost hit enough threes to knock the Rockets out of the playoffs last year in the bubble. He scored his career high in 27. He makes one more, and the Thunder win Game 7. I mean, that's it. James Harden blocked that shot. We've been over it, etc. But to your point, I mean, it's just like a gray area. I don't want to say just absolutely no, but I don't want to say that Lou Dort has the chance to become Kawhi, because Kawhi is just such a unique individualized player. I guess, at the end of the day, like, I'm just going to say time will tell if Lou Dort can play that good of defense, because we've seen the meme of LeBron James seeing Kawhi checked back in the 2014, 2015 NBA Finals, and LeBron go, not this month, whatever, right? Like under his breath. Until we start seeing Lou Dort being represented like that, we're not going to know. But the key thing here is that it's almost like Lou Dort would have to like take this team up another level, right? Like, if this Thunder team had guys like Fred VanVleet, Pascal Siakam, Kyle Lowry, Marcus Gasol, Serge Ibaka, etc., from that Raptors team, that was all just kind of put together, then we could see what would happen, right? But to answer your question, just full blown here, without going too much further into it, no, not in my mind. Like if I have to bet, not in my mind, just because that superstar potential, that like take over the game, that like clutch shot, that last possession, all type of stuff. I don't think that's going to be Lou Dort, and I don't think that's going to be Shea either, for all that matter, too, for Thunder fans. I think that's going to be some other guy who's either on the roster right now or is going to be drafted to the Thunder eventually in the next 17 picks. But that's because the Thunder have like this war chest, right? Like that's the thing. The Thunder are gonna be able to trade for some guy. Zion's contract ends. The Thunder are gonna be able to go, hey, we see ya. Want to come over to Oklahoma City? Joel, what do you think here about?
Yeah. So Zev, like you said, you just introduced that question to us here in the last few minutes, and at first, if we take it back to last week's podcast, talking about some of our secret favorite players that don't play for our favorite teams, Kawhi Leonard was definitely on mine.
I remember.
So obviously, I'm a big Kawhi Leonard fan. And what's funny about Lou and Kawhi is that their initial, obviously, rookie seasons, they weren't the stars by any means, but definitely got consistent minutes. Lou played 23 minutes a game last season for his first year, and Kawhi going all the way back to that 2011-2012 season, he was playing 24 minutes a game. Though obviously the roles were a little bit different. Obviously Kawhi was on a championship contending team. Obviously Tim Duncan, Ginobili, Tony Parker, we all know that, of course. So he kind of got bred into a healthy environment. Not to say the Thunder wasn't a healthy environment last year. However, this year, obviously, as you mentioned, it is definitely a dark, aka rebuilding season.
Yeah.
And at first, I want to say, Zev, no way in hell can Lou be compared to Kawhi. However, we're talking about, we've seen a good body of work with Kawhi, playing 10 seasons already. He's one of the top scorers in the league. He's obviously won multiple Defensive Player of the Year's awards. So he has major accolades within those 10 seasons. We're talking about Lou, who is just, hasn't even wrapped up his second season in the NBA just yet. I will say, with my banter back and forth with Walter directly, and I told him this, and I think I even mentioned on the podcast before, Lou Dort's my favorite Thunder player. Just seeing his defensive tenacity out there, that effort, just a hardcore, seeing it obviously in the bubble, obviously that I'll never forget that series, versus the Rockets, just how he locked up as much as you could lock up James Harden. He locked him up. And so it's kind of taking that moment versus, solidified one of the best scorers in NBA history and the fits that he was giving him. And then, as Calvin had mentioned, I'm a LeBron guy, and I remember that Spurs series where LeBron literally rolled his eyes like, oh, man, he checked back in the game. Like, as much as I hate that got on camera, it's also, I don't want to say he was scared of him or feared him, but, man, that just shows. I mean, that's another tenacious defender out there. So with Lou improving his shot, obviously, he shot 29% last year, 3-point line. He's at 34% this year. Getting a lot more shots. Period. He only took six shots a game last year. He's up to nearly 12 shots a game. So his opportunity is definitely there for him. Let him get a couple more off seasons on his belt. Hopefully he can get a better cast of characters around Lou Dort and the Thunder team here in the next couple of years. And, man, I do not want to say, Zev, there is no way in hell I can't. Even though that was my gut reaction, just thinking back, the only thing I would say, the only knock on that would be obviously Kawhi's 6'7", and Lou Dort 6'3". So he's kind of that oddie body mold. So when you're talking about some of these matchups, and just getting shots off, over guys that he's normally guarding, 6'6", 6'8". We'll see if he can really produce on the offensive end and really get his numbers up. I mean, because we're talking about, Kawhi's average, over 20 points, for the better of the last 7 years, give or take. And Lou Dort's a little bit away from there. Obviously, he's averaging 13 points a game this season. But, I like what I see out of him. That's a young and up-and-coming big-time player.
And maybe to cap it off this way, at least in my mind, Lou Dort can play the undrafted version of Kawhi. Kawhi was drafted 15th overall in the first round. Granted, he should definitely have been taken earlier. Every single redraft would have him being taken almost first overall, if not first overall, if it exactly how his draft went. But I believe that would be it. Lou Dort, if he's redrafted, I think he still is. I think he's a top 10 pick, right? But he's an undrafted guy, so as he can play up to the Kawhi limit as much as an undrafted guy coming out of college would, right? So,
Calvin, do you remember a couple of names that got drafted in front of Kawhi Leonard?
Oh God, I do not. To be honest.
I'm about to make both you guys upset. Let me just name drop a couple of the guys. Jimmer Fredette.
Oh, Sacramento's just dead.
Brandon Knight.
Oh, I feel like Detroit drafted him.
Okay, which Brandon Knight highlight is worse, the Kyrie crossover or the DeAndre dunk?
The DeAndre dunk for me. I know Calvin's going to say the crossover.
The DeAndre dunk is not as bad because DeAndre Jordan would have dunked on literally anyone MFer in the entire world on that dunk.
Right.
Just like LeBron James would have dunked on any other person besides Isaiah Thomas in that moment too.
Right.
The crossover is bad because it's Kyrie. Like, just play it safe. Play the possession conservatively. And I feel like he was already playing the possession conservatively. I feel like he wasn't trying to jump or whatever, all type of stuff.
Nope.
And Kyrie just keeps messing with him,
Oh,
whatever.
great.
And then just destroys him. It's really that Brandon Knight jumped. I mean, that's really the thing. Is it?
Yep.
It was all, hey, just you're done. Just chill. All right, just turn around. Whatever. It's the fact that he jumped. Anyways, here
Sorry to
move on
get
to our second topic of the night, and I know I didn't necessarily intro all of the topics here off the top like I usually do, but that's because we'll see how many we can get to, honestly. So I earlier got a message. I'm gonna say earlier this week, from Keith. And I do have his phone number in case anyone wants to give him a call at his cell.
Who's Keith?
Keith is a guy. He's a guy who's a fan of the NBA, or was a fan of the NBA, and I'll explain more here. So Keith went into, and he had a couple of points of why he's not a huge NBA fan and why not buying tickets. His third point, which I want to talk about, yes.
Okay.
Oh, okay.
I know I'm introing this a little bit weird, but you got to let me just kind of plow through it real quick.
Sorry about that.
All good. 3 weeks from now, I'll intro it just much, much better. But he said, I'm disappointed with the NBA players picking where they want the next super team, which ultimately further erodes parity, making the season a waste of time for the have-nots. Until there's a strict salary cap that forces parity, i.e. see NFL or NHL, I'm afraid teams in large markets or desirable destinations will dominate basketball and baseball, so I'll spend my time and money watching a more competitive sport. Regards, Keith. Keith, thanks for the question here. I'm pretty darn sure he had no idea that we were going to answer this on the podcast, but thanks for submitting it either way. You can submit any question you have on the podcast to @CGA Tour on Twitter or Instagram. Thanks, Keith, for doing that already, I guess. But I want to ask you guys this. Granted, Zev and I both, we're all basically from here, but Zev and I both have been Thunder fans since 2008. Joel, you are the Lakers fan on the podcast. And previously before, I guess, Zev, who was your team before the Thunder came to Oklahoma City? Was it Dallas or Spurs?
Spurs.
Okay. And I really honestly wasn't that big into the NBA at all before Oklahoma City. I got a team, and if anything, I think I like a LeBron James shirt jersey just because he had just gone to the finals in like 2006. So, he'd been doing great things for the Cavs. But I think that was kind of the guy I was watching, not necessarily. I wasn't a huge Cavs fan back in 2006. I don't really remember 6th grade that well either.
The first game I ever watched was the Spurs game with Robert Horry and draining it. Literally the first NBA game I ever watched, and I was like, oh, that was cool. And then I got hooked.
With all that being said, I think Keith does make a good point here with the NBA having a soft salary cap, right? And guys should be able to exceed it. But also as us seeing buyouts and us seeing the weird opportunities that players have to change teams and locations. I don't think that a guy like KD is going to be able to ever sign with the Warriors again unless the salary cap does explode for 1 year and only 1 year in the future. Right? Like, that is such an anomaly in the NBA history where you have Steph on a very team-friendly deal because he had Steph had injuries early on in his career. He had ankle injuries where he was just not playing a ton. Shout out to him for progressing through all the stuff, but he was on a very team-friendly deal at the time. Clay also on a team-friendly deal because he wasn't a superstar at the time. And Draymond also on team-friendly deal because he's a second-round pick. And then, I think he was on his second contract by then, but maybe not. I kind of forget how it goes. I'm just saying here off the top of my head, the Warriors, that team is constructed. When someone says construct a super team, build it all together, well, okay, yeah, that kind of sucks. Like I don't like it. I don't like it how the Nets can just construct a super team and just go, yeah, you know what we're going to do? We're going to get Kyrie, we're going to get KD, and then somehow, some way we're going to trade for James Harden because the Rockets will be desperate enough to do it for whatever reason, right? And the Rockets got some picks back. That's basically it at this point. But I'll ask you first here, Zev. Like, how do you think the NBA tries to fix this? What are your thoughts on like how we see more parity? I mean, is there a way that small market teams stay relevant?
I think it's ultimately got to be about some kind of more equitable salary cap that's like league wide, and also I feel like there has to be less TV contract that goes to the big cities than there is, because a lot of the TV money, I think, is the incentive for big market teams. And I think if some of that advertising money that they get when they're all nationally televised games, if that goes away and it becomes a fair process, I feel like that would be better. I don't know. That is a very complicated thing. I don't know. Y'all tell me how you feel about it.
Joel, I know you got a point here, right? You're a Lakers fan, live in Oklahoma City. I remember there was a car I would see all the time driving up and down 23rd on the way from my parents' house, it's over by Taft Stadium, down to high school in Classen. I would see that it was driving around with, it was like a Chevelle, had 30s on it, was balling out, but it was just straight up Lakers all day, every day. That's the only thing I knew about this car. There have been plenty of Lakers fans throughout the country. There's Lakers fans in Detroit. There are a ton of Lakers fans in San Diego. And there still are a large contingent of Lakers fans in Oklahoma City, not only because the Lakers are good right now, but there's still a large contingent of Lakers fans in Oklahoma City when, it's kind of Kobe's, kind of past final couple of years, but he wasn't playing all the time. I just know there were a ton of people coming out because it was just the Lakers, even if they were watching not today's Julius Randle, but previous year's Julius Randle, right? And guys too.
Yeah, so I love the topic. Talking about big market, small market, and trying to lure in obviously the talent and the players, and obviously the ultimate goal is to win a championship. Correct?
Mm-hmm.
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay. So what I find funny about this whole discussion is I think we forget that the big market teams recently, and by recently I'm referring obviously the last 20 years, if you want to say, they haven't been great by any means. If you do take it back, the Lakers themselves, they went 6 years, without making the playoffs.
Mm-hmm.
But I think we all tend to forget that just because the Lakers have been around so long, obviously, with the championships that are won, they're, with the superstars, they have some of the best Hall of Famers, from top to bottom, that would take care of, when you go all the way back, the Wilt Chamberlains, Kareem Abdul-Jabbars, Jerry West, Shaq, Kobe, we can go on for days and days, to list these names. The Lakers have been around for so long, so they feel so relevant. But doesn't always equate to automatic success every single year. Now, of course, when you can get, the upper management and executives to come together and clean house and get on the same page, then I think that's when you can really make some noise. And that goes for any team, because no matter if you're a big market team or a small market team, you have the same, the same timeline as far as when the season starts, the training camp, the draft. I'm sorry, I should start with that. The draft, training camps, regular season, playoffs. You got the same goal, and it's obviously just get better every single day. Now, with these small market teams, obviously, you better hope you're drafting well, of course, because you're really trying to bank on those players, and all of us, being OKC residents. we know that more than any other team in the NBA, where we can really fall back on, which is sad now when you can say, yeah, we had 3 MVPs and got 0 championships out of it. But, I know it became a big topic, when Anthony Davis, his time came up in New Orleans where he's like, man, I got to go. I got to go. I did my time here in New Orleans, which is considered one of the smaller market teams. And so I think that came into discussion, but there's still some guys that are still lingering in these smaller markets, which they seem for the most part pretty dedicated. I think Damian Lillard's one of them. I think he's been more than vocal about how much he loves being in Portland. And another one that's going to be intriguing is obviously Giannis. Being drafted with Milwaukee and being the name of the MVP. Signed the extension, so he's showing love to the smaller market. So it'll be interesting to see, how long they actually do stay. We all know, it's extremely rare for a player to remain in their same playing city. I think, of course, we all think of Kobe Bryant, Tim Duncan, Dirk Nowitzki as some of the headlining names that did spend all of their career and all of their Hall of Fame careers in one city. Which give them all the praise, for that, because you already know that there was temptations there. It came out with I think even recently, they would mention that when Dirk came up for free agency, Kobe Bryant literally text messaged him. He's like, "Hey man, you're free agent. Not gonna lie, would love to see you. I'm gonna throw a text at you to see what's up, man." He's like, "Man, I appreciate it. I love it, but I love Dallas. I'm gonna stick around." So it's pretty cool when it does happen. Enjoy it, but I don't think we should knock players for leaving, because they do, put in a lot of time, a lot of effort, and it does come a time to say, hey, I've improved my value as not just a player, but a lot of these people become icons. And they want to cash in on those icons. I mean, yeah, they're basketball players. They want to win championships, but they're also human beings that want to better not just their families now, but their families long term. Their grandkids. So I'm never going to knock a player for leaving a small market, even though it's tough. But man, you got to look at the big picture. So, but man, what I really wanted to bring up though is the small market teams actually been killing it. If you really think about it, they've been killing it when it comes to winning. Obviously, not necessarily championships, though, winning. I was looking up Milwaukee Bucks. They've been in the playoffs 6 out of the last 8 years. OKC's been in the playoffs 10 out of the last 11 seasons. The Blazers have been 7 years in a row out there in Portland. Indiana's, this is the one that really slipped my mind. They've been to the playoffs 9 out of the last 10 seasons, so they're super playoff relevant. Spurs, obviously, we know that the streak ended last year. They went 22 straight seasons. Another considered
Nuggets,
small
right?
market. Say it again.
Nuggets, right?
Nuggets got a nice little streak going too. I didn't necessarily put them in the small market because that was something I was going to lead. Obviously I'll hand it off to you guys so we can, when you talk about small market, big market, I think there's some tweeners. I consider Denver a tweener. I didn't necessarily put them as a small market because obviously because that's what I wanted to get your feedback on. What do you guys define in a small market, big market?
So to me, at least, small market is like the TV revenue share, right? So any team that plays, I think the question here by Keith is a team that, one, is not in a attractive city to go to, right? Is not in the Bay, is not in LA, is not in Miami, it's not in basically a coastal city, right? Or in a big city like New York, Chicago, or Dallas for that matter, right? So that narrows it down quite a bit pretty quickly, to be honest. And so I think his idea here is like, we're talking about the Jazz, we're talking about the Suns, we're talking about the Thunder, we're talking about the Pistons, the Timberwolves, the Kings, the Pelicans, right? The Spurs, is definitely a small market, right? Trailblazers definitely a small market. And going through those. And I know I'm just naming off just a ton of teams here, but at the same point, like, a bunch of these, what I think is funny here is that a bunch of those teams I just named off, I almost didn't name off a team in the East. The teams that are small markets in the East are, in my mind, are the... And like small market is such a weird word to say too. But Cleveland, small market, I guess, right?
Yeah, it is.
Raptors, technically, I think that's a harder team to form a super team at. Hornets, Hawks, probably. but those are, and I'm trying to like really think about it. Pistons, I mean, to cap out the 5. But when someone says, "Oh man, it's a small market team or whatever, it's not a great team," I think normally the idea is like you're naming off teams that have been bad historically for a while that are not the Lakers or the Celtics. Lakers, Celtics, 76ers, Bulls, right? Or, I'm trying to think of another West team to throw in there, Spurs, right? But Spurs are definitely a small market. So when it comes to all of this, there's
we got to also say historically, real quick, Seattle
as well.
Because since like pre-2008, they were the one of the small market teams as well.
Right, and I got to throw in, I can't forget about Milwaukee, but I'm going down the list here, right? The Knicks are never a small market team, right? The Knicks are not a small market team.
No.
They play in the biggest city.
Largest market.
They play in the biggest city in the world. They are the name, New York. I mean, the other team that plays in that city isn't even named New York. They're named Brooklyn, right? So we can get into all of that. But to me, at least, yes, there is enough parity in the NBA, right?
Yes.
There's enough parity in the NBA. Would we like to see the Washington Wizards not be between seeds 6 through 12 for 10 to 15 to 20 to 30 years in a row? Of course, right? Of course. But this is where I think that the David Stern vetoing the Chris Paul trade, not too long ago, right? But this past decade, that could have, if Chris Paul goes to the Lakers, right? And Joel, you tell me if I'm wrong here. All of a sudden, you've got Chris Paul, Kobe, Pau Gasol still,
yep.
And maybe Dwight, right? All 4 of those guys. That is a super team. That is exactly whatever. And I had to look it up here real quick too. David Stern vetoed that trade, not as the NBA commissioner, but he vetoed the trade because technically at that time, the NBA owned the Pelicans due to everything that was going on with the Pelicans sale. So technically, David Stern vetoed the trade as the owner of the Pelicans. He vetoed the trade that the GM was making, whatever, right? Exactly. And I think what makes us all annoyed is that when Chris Paul still went to LA, he just went for the other team in the same arena that never won a championship with the Clippers. Got very close, though, was in the playoffs for several years in a row, comparatively to the Pelicans, very close, right? And the Pelicans kind of were reeling until they got Anthony Davis. Then they're kind of in and out of the playoffs with Anthony Davis every so often, too, right? So it wasn't like a perfect thing. My whole deal with this is that is the way to fix the NBA, is that if you see a James Harden trade from the Rockets to the Nets, right? There's got to be some way of just going, okay, you can do that, but your salary cap as the Nets takes X percentage hit, or it takes whatever, right? Like and on the flip side of that, the NBA has stuff and guidelines to not let that happen. That's why the Thunder don't own every single one in order, the Clippers picks. They own like every other one with pick swaps in between.
Right.
Because that's a rule, that you cannot trade all the picks consecutively in a row. You can trade every other pick, but then you can do whatever you want with the pick swap things.
Look, Calvin dropping some big-time knowledge on us tonight.
I know. I got amped up. I got excited for this podcast here.
I love it.
Hey, I'm sorry. Walter's not here
I'm here for it. I'm here for it.
Walter's not here to say this. I had a real tough week at work, so I had to, it's not like Walter's running gag here for so weeks. So I was like getting into the podcast tonight.
I love it.
But I think the way to fix the NBA is to have more of either clarity from an NBA GM, which we're never going to get. Let's be honest here. We're never going to get NBA GMs. Just like the 3 of us, if we took a GM role tomorrow with the Timberwolves, all 3 of us are stepping in and going, okay, I've got 3 years to flip this team. They've told me I've got 3 years. What in the world can I do? And I think all 3 of us are probably going to do with a couple of the same type of ideas, right? Explore trade options for guys on the roster, explore how we can tank immediately to get better for the next season, and explore free agency, right? We're going to look at all those 3 avenues.
Mm-hmm.
But, okay, once those 3 avenues kind of come and go, and I think that the Timberwolves or Timber Pups or, whatever have tried to do that year after year, then I think it becomes, okay, so now what are we going to do? Oh, we're going to fire the head coach. Oh, we're going to, you know what I mean? It's just kind of a revolving door of guys coming in, coming out. Unless you are Sam Presti, or unless you are, Greg Popovich with the Spurs, and all that type of stuff too, right? Like RC. And so I
Or
think
shout out to Rick Carlisle too, because isn't he like the coach and the president of basketball operations?
Well, Rick Carlisle got fired from Detroit. Got fired. and now he is a Hall of Fame head coach with another team. Who's the other guy that I'm trying to bring up here real quick? Monty Williams got fired as the Pelicans head coach. Coach Chris Paul for one season. Now he gets to coach Chris Paul again here with the Suns. But I always thought Monty Williams got a couple years with Chris. No, he got one. And now he gets to keep coaching him again. Now he's had a good relationship with him. But now we go, Monty Williams is a great coach. Right? Well, it's because when you have such a short cycle, these NBA teams like here's one I can throw out here too. I'm trying to bring up the West here. Okay, for example, Steven Silas right now is the coach of the Rockets, right? Well, if the Rockets don't suddenly get a great couple of guys, they are not in a Galveston is not 30 minutes away. They are not like in a beach destination. They are not in the coolest city in the entire world in Houston, right? They do not have the best known organization or franchise history. Their owner has said some stuff that apparently, and I'm not going to get into too much more, either way, has been racist and Trump supporting, all type of stuff, whatever, which is the majority of the NBA is black. That's not going to go well with them whatsoever. So if you're the Rockets, you're Steven Silas, the head coach, you got a head coaching job, great. But are you looking at this and going, oh my gosh, we got to do something immediately? Like, how can we, I don't care about what our future looks like. I don't care if we try to tank for 2 seasons. I want us to win right now. So you're not looking at Steven Silas going, hey, you know what? I can see the 5-year plan. Let's go on the 5-year plan and let's see what we can do. You're going, dude, I want to keep coaching in the NBA. I want to win in the next 2 years. I don't care if that's making the 8th seed. I don't want to be the 14th seed, right? And I think that's also how we see this revolving door and cycle of, we see the Nets owner, basically go and trade the whole entire future for the tail end of Paul Pierce and Kevin Garnett's careers, which did not go well. We know all this, but
not at all.
Yeah.
But now that he's not, I don't know if he still is the owner or not, but now that he's not the biggest name owner and the Nets have had another chance to kind of have a cycle, we see all this in the end. So I know I'm going on like the biggest tangent in the world here, second time they're on the podcast.
You're good.
But the way we see more parity is that we just take it through a wider lens. We either give guys more time, if you're NBA owners and general managers and all type of stuff, or you have the actual NBA step in and say, hey, you know what, Kings, you have to sell the team. If you can't make, you know what I mean, like force a sale. Alex Rodriguez and a new ownership group is going to buy the Timberwolves. Who knows if the Timberwolves will be great in the next 10 years or not. But at least there's some change there from the way heads up of we're doing this. And if you're the Kings, like, are you going, dude, last time we were relevant, White Chocolates was still in the league of Jason Williams, right? It's been a while. It's been 15, 20 years. So what do we want to do? And, if you're the Kings too, you got to be going,
Wasn't there some discussion a few years ago about them moving cities?
Yeah, like they were going to move to Seattle. They were going to be the team that was going to move back to Seattle, I think.
And that's what I was going to bring up next was as maybe this can be a good segue into expansion.
Yeah, I mean, go for it because that's where we're headed, right?
Yeah, I would love to see a team back in Seattle, just for my love of NBA history and for that city. I feel like it would be the next right thing for the NBA to do. I feel like if they don't, it's going to upset a lot of people.
Well, so I think if the NBA gets so the issues with the NBA expanding is 2 things. It seems like they'd only expand to Western cities. I don't know how many Eastern cities they'd expand to, right? So then once they expand to the West, then you have to work. Then you have to do conference realignment, but you have to do conference realignment with like a couple of 2 teams because right now we were even, so you have to expand to 2 more teams. Say it's Vegas and Seattle, right? Those are the teams that I would think of as far as expansion goes.
Wow,
and,
no love for San Diego?
Dude, the Clippers just got to move back south again. This is ridiculous. How the Clippers and Donald Sterling were originally allowed in the 80s to move that quickly to LA is absurd. So they just got moved back to South anyways. I mean, I could really go into that. They just have to move South. That is the whole thing.
Yeah.
But besides that, my two are Las Vegas and Seattle. Joel, who do you have? What other where else should the NBA expand to?
Yeah, Seattle's no brainer. You could see a good, obviously our Oklahoma City Thunder franchise, was created from ripping it away from Seattle, literally. Yeah. And you could see the wound, and I think that wound is still open in Seattle. I mean, you see it all the time with all the fans, really giving no love at all towards the Thunder organization. It was kind of just a weird situation, because obviously we didn't keep the Supersonics name, so I think there's still some hope that if and when Seattle does come back into to the league, that they can revive the Supersonics name. But man, I mean, you got a city that you got nearly 4 million people in Seattle. You already got the two other professional franchises with
it's such a storied past.
Yeah, you got the Seattle Seahawks there, you got the Mariners there, and man, yeah, and actually yesterday I was just catching up on some. They had Rain Man and the Glove replaying with their interview, and checking out that man, and that was a tough breakup, man. Those two guys got mad love for each other. I mean, they were literally saying, what was kind of one of your biggest, career accomplishments? It was literally, they're like, just playing with you. They were saying it to each other, like, playing with you was just amazing. So it was pretty cool to see, what they're able to do in Seattle. And then, obviously, fast forward, a couple, a little over, a decade later, and, see that, they came out here to Oklahoma City. But, Seattle's a no-brainer. Man, there's a couple teams I wrote down. San Diego was one of them. Just kind of going by just pure, just the size, amount of people, population in the city. I agree. The realignment, has to make sense, and there's just so many East Coast teams. It's unreal. So, man, how about some? Maybe we, throw some Midwest out there, get some St. Louis, little St. Louis involved.
Kansas City.
Kansas City.
Not opposed to having Kansas City out there. I mean, again, that's another city that, they already got the Chiefs and the Royals out there. So St. Louis has the Cardinals, and they got the hockey team with the Blues. Is that the hockey team out there? So there's some multiple professional franchises already out there ready to go.
I do appreciate how that you said the hockey team, right? And Zev and I both were just like, wow.
Yeah.
Neither of us are hockey guys.
Zilch.
But yeah, I think the Blues won the Stanley Cup some time ago.
What about Baltimore?
Yeah, another team that has two. Yep, got the Ravens and the Orioles out there.
But man, I guess the Nationals.
That close to Washington would be weird. Though.
Right, the Nationals. Granted, I know the Orioles and the Nationals are in different leagues, but man, that just seems so weird. Just to have another Washington team, like a Washington D.C.-ish team, right?
I mean, the other two, like you said, obviously the Redskins and the Ravens. They're doing it in the NFL, so you mentioned they're doing MLB. Might as well bring it to the NBA,
Joel, it's the Washington football team, by the way.
Nah, man. It's Redskins forever for us fans, man. Redskins forever.
Joel, I gotta get you. We gotta do an NFL podcast here before the draft.
Definitely.
To me, the conference realignment thing has to be at the forefront of this, because if you add a Las Vegas or Seattle team, you add one Western team, period. Then all of a sudden, you have
Memphis has to go east.
You have to have Memphis go east, and I think you have
literally
to have Minnesota go east.
On a map, they're further east than Chicago.
Oh yeah, no, I mean that's one of the dumber things is that Memphis used to play used to be Vancouver.
In Vancouver, yeah.
And now, then they moved to Memphis, and they were like, conference realignment.
No,
what is that?
For sure.
It's like having West Virginia play in the Big 12. It's just bizarre.
Well, it's the same thing with us. The Thunder is obviously in the Northwest because of Seattle. So
Yeah. How are the Grizzlies not in the Northwest region? Is kind of the funny thing. Or you have Minnesota Timberwolves are in the Northwest region. They're just north. They're not west.
They're the most north.
They're besides Toronto, but yeah.
Yeah.
I know what you mean. I feel like we might be forgetting a team or a city or two to add on here. I'm trying to think if there's any other.
Here I got one that out of all the cities that are options that actually have out of basketball, football, baseball, hockey. There's one city that has 3 out of the 4. That's the only city that has 3 other professional teams but doesn't have basketball. There's
Pittsburgh.
one other city.
Pittsburgh,
Damn it.
right?
There's 2 cities.
Seattle.
You're right.
Seattle.
Well, Seattle doesn't have hockey.
Yeah, they do. They have a hockey team literally coming next year.
Oh, well, they didn't have it last year.
Okay, all right, fair enough. Fair enough.
Tampa Bay.
Going to work there.
Tampa Bay.
Tampa Bay.
Oh.
So they got Tampa Bay Bucks, the Rays, and the Lightning out there. So they're, and then yes, Zev is correct. Yes, Pittsburgh, Steelers, Pirates, and Penguins. So there's 2 cities that have 3 out of the 4 major sports and missing
It
basketball.
would be really interesting to see a basketball team in Pittsburgh.
Got to have that black and yellow. You already know that.
Oh, yeah.
I feel like every team that is expansion team should just automatically have the same colors as the dominant team of that city. I mean, that's such a cool thing.
Pittsburgh is the only city that does this, right? Same colors for all the professional teams that have obviously more than 2 teams. Obviously, we're not going to say
The Penguins, not really. The Penguins don't have black and yellow, I don't think.
What?
Do they not?
No, Penguins are like black and yellow for sure.
Are they?
Yeah.
Oh,
Yeah,
Yeah.
uh,
The Pirates, of course, black and yellow. Yeah, of course, Steelers.
yep.
I'm trying to think if there's another city, and I know my dad's gonna listen to this part and be like, "You guys forgot about."
I can't think of one.
I cannot think of one either.
Where all the professional teams have the same colors. I think that's legit about Pittsburgh. I've never been to Pittsburgh. I've never been to Northeast at all, but I think that's legit, man. That's mad love for that city, man.
Well, so Pittsburgh, what's interesting is that I've driven through there and actually spent the night in Pittsburgh once before. Is that Pittsburgh has the city of like bridges. They just have a bunch of rivers that run through Pittsburgh. It's kind of like the city's kind of weirdly like it's on an island, but I guess it's like all separated by rivers. Anyways, all of the bridges, because there's several of them, are yellow in color. So it'd be like if the Warriors were the color of, the Golden Gate Bridge, right? They're kind of like red or whatever. They were the color of one of their most famous, painted things they're known for. Yeah, like if you look at the Pirates ballpark, in the background of it, you can just see a bunch of yellow bridges. I mean, it's definitely worth a Google. But, yeah, I don't know of another city that... actually, I do know of one, Oklahoma City.
See, that's all I was going to say. I knew y'all were going to say that.
Teams are the same color.
Got to have a minimum of 2 professional teams. Minimum of 2.
Minimum of 2.
Good one.
Yeah, you're right. The Energy are green, so I guess that reels it out. No, that's a good point, though. At the end of the day, like, I think the minor league teams should do that, too. Like, why is FC Tulsa and the Drillers, who play in the same stadium for basically the same organization, do totally separate colors? Like, the Drillers have rebranded, and FC Tulsa rebranded. Why is the soccer team not the same colors? Anyways, it's a good one. It's a good one for sure. Well, couple more topics here, so we'll kind of run through it real quick because we're almost a minute 50. But Marcus Aldridge has announced his retirement mid-season, granted, with kind of 75% of the season gone and wrapped up here. He is a couple stats about him at least. So he played against the Sonics when he was with the Blazers originally and got drafted. Then he, of course, kept playing for the Blazers when Oklahoma City moved from Seattle to Oklahoma City, and kept playing with the Spurs after he was, I think, traded or free agency. So of course this year he was bought out just a couple of weeks ago, maybe a month or whatever, and ended up going to play in Brooklyn for the Nets. And I'm not sure what causes irregular heartbeats to be more impactful or not, but that is why he's decided to retire this time. It's because he had an irregular heartbeat that he said scared him for his life, and I'm never going to say anything about that as far as health and safety.
Right.
I don't think any of us are, but do we want to give like a minute or two kind of reflection on LaMarcus Aldridge moments or stuff you remember about him being in the NBA? Because granted, he had a lengthy career. That and he had a
All NBA 5 times, I think.
Okay. Yeah.
7-time All-Star.
7-time All-Star. Yeah. To me at least, he's one of the guys who still played. I don't know if the older style.
Old school. Yeah.
But he wasn't shooting threes. No one's never LaMarcus Aldridge
But
game.
he had a beautiful mid-range, like one of the purest mid-range shots I think of the last 15 years.
Well, I remember whenever people were just up in arms of, I can't believe he decided to go to the Nets. They bought him out and he went to the Nets. The Nets are stacked. And I was like, guys, have you seen LaMarcus Aldridge? He's literally going to clog up the floor for the Nets. He's literally goes, give me the ball in the left block. I'm going to turn around and shoot. Left block every single time. That's what I know him for. Like, from Dallas, Texas, went to University of Texas at Austin, not at Dallas. Just to be clear in the distinction there, of course. But he. So, I mean, I kind of forget he's 6'11". He always seemed like he was like got to be 6'8", 6'10", somewhere in there, just because he never really played center. But yeah, I mean, I guess on draft night he has a Bulls hat on. It's kind of a thing to note as well too. But played against the in-conference rival for Oklahoma State and Texas. So played from 2006 to 2020, averaging 34 minutes a game, which seems insane. Or I think that's postseason. Average regular season 26 to 27 minutes a game. So. Or maybe that's just for this season. I'm going to have to dig more into the stats here later on. But anyways, nonetheless, great career for him.
Obviously, one of the topics, one of the early topics we had was, talking about small market, big market. It was kind of unique for him to go to Portland, San Antonio. I think we'd all agree that those are kind of small market to small market. But yeah, he left, if you remember when he left Portland, he had spent 9 seasons, I want to say, out in Portland. Had a couple playoff runs, but one of those things where I don't want to say. I think when you become, a star, I don't know if we would say super. I mean, career average of 20 and 8. That's pretty solid. I mean, that's solid. And his career season, his career best season was in the 15 season, which was his final season in Portland. Average a career best 23 points a game, and then he cashed in and went to San Antonio with a 4-year, $80 million contract. But I find what's unique is he did give love and respect and time to Portland, because keep in mind, obviously, he paired up for Damian for a few of those seasons, to say, hey, my clock is ticking. I think a lot of players get to that point when they're, obviously, we know that with KD, we know that with LeBron. Like, man, I'm spending a lot of time here, but I don't have the pieces around it, or whatever the case may be. It's just not working. It's not working. But I know I am possibly on the championship level. Obviously, it came true, obviously, for both LeBron and KD, of course. Unfortunately for LaMarcus, it didn't. Potentially, it might have happened, with this team that they're building in Brooklyn right now. So, super sad. I think he got he played 5 games with Brooklyn before, posting his retirement this morning. So, yeah, super sad to see. Just because he's one of those good guys. Kind of always had, never had negative headlines about him. Played ball the right way, and like you guys said, since he'd been in the NBA, in that old, I don't say old school, but in one of the being in the league since 2006, one of those guys that you just kind of want to see them go out the right way. So super sad to get that news about LaMarcus Aldridge for sure today.
Yeah, and I think if the Nets win it all this year, they're definitely getting him a ring, even though he played with them for 5 games.
Oh, of course. Of course. No brainer.
And at the end of the day, like nothing but respect for Marcus Aldridge. He came into the career. I guess when he entered into the league, Basketball Reference has him as a center for 63 games, and 22 games he started with Portland, and then he plays power forward for the next 8 years with Portland. He plays power forward for the next while because he plays power forward for San Antonio even for a couple of years, which it's positionless basketball. I'm just throwing it out there just because I think it's interesting. But the Spurs this season, he played in 21 games, and played with Brooklyn for 5. So, anyways,
and he's one of those players towards the end of the career. I know we talked about this, previously about Blake Griffin, who's expanded his game, to obviously get outside the perimeter and really assist. That stretch 4. Stretch 5 position is forever evolving now more than ever, and he did adjust because his early years in the NBA he wasn't shooting any threes whatsoever. He was shooting a ton of 15-footers, but he was shooting no threes early on the year, early in his career. But definitely the last few years he definitely added that to his repertoire.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, for sure. Well, then we've got one more topic here that I think we have time for in the last 10 minutes or so of the podcast here, and that is, so we like I said, we are 75% of the way through the NBA season. There are 31 days left for the Thunder in the regular season. The Thunder have 17 games left to lose before they can end the season. And I say lose because losing by 38 to the Warriors last night, and the Thunder only trying to get better draft odds at this point seems like something that's inevitable. But with all that being said here, who do you guys think is going to be the play-in teams for the Western Conference and for the Eastern Conference?
Well, first of all, I'm a reverse it. Obviously, this week it came out, that Luka Doncic obviously is not happy with this format. How do you guys feel about this little play-in tournament? Are you guys fans of it, or just like the old school 1 through 8?
This was not the year to do it. That's all I'm going to say. This was not the year to do the play-in tournament. The year for the play-in tournament is when you can have fans in the stands at full capacity, and not have a bunch of COVID protocols, and not have what's felt like from everyone's standpoint a rushed season. I know we do want to talk about injuries for a second or two, and gosh, Jamal Murray being out for the whole, being out for the rest of the season.
That's
probably
tough.
For
that's tough
too. Listen, a non-contact injury like an ACL tear like that. I've torn my ACL in my left knee, the same knee, torn meniscus as well. It is a long time recovering before you feel like you're just good walking again, with like some stability. So he's out for a season, if not basically 8 months, The Nuggets are the 4th seed right now. There are the Lakers who have dealt with injuries, with AD and LeBron out, or the 5th seed. They're not, it's not going to happen, I don't think, but the Mavericks are only 3.5 games back at the Lakers right now as a 6th seed versus a 5th seed. 7th versus 5th. There's just a lot of injury issues. So every team's dealt with injuries. Every team's dealt with COVID protocols and all that type of stuff. I don't think this was the season to do that, to do the play-in tournament. Zev, what about you?
Agreed.
Yeah. What do you think, Joel? Is this the year, or?
Man, I like it. Anytime we can get a few more teams, to get in the action and quick. It's not a full blown series. It's literally one game. Obviously with the
True.
So you got 7 and 8 playing each other, 9 and 10 playing each other. Of course, we know the format. So I think it's interesting. It piques my interest. So for those teams that are trying to make a playoff push, late. Gives them a chance, whatever the case may be, why they are 9 or 10 seed, whether it's injuries early or injuries late or a trade that happened close to trade deadline, whatever the case may be, it gives them a chance. So, as of right now, obviously, on the west side, you got Dallas and Memphis 7 and 8. So obviously we know why Luka is not happy with this, because that means there's a chance if they lost that game and then lost the second game, that they wouldn't even make the playoffs, even as a 7th seed finishing in the standings. So we see why a 7 and 8 team would hate it, but the 9 and 10 would love it.
Right.
So right now, obviously, you got Dallas and Memphis would be playing each other, which actually they played each other last night, and we all seen the one-footed crazy circus shot by Luka going down, a little Luka magic going down last night. I know Calvin was probably ecstatic.
Oh yeah. Me, I was just jumping for joy when I woke up the next morning and saw that happen. I did have to sleep at some point, so I just don't think I had the TV on then. But
then with the 9 and 10 spot, obviously you would have Golden State and San Antonio. Again, this is if the standings finish the way they are tonight. Which Golden State's been such a weird team. Obviously flirting around 500. You have a superstar performance like Curry put up last night in Chesapeake Arena, 11 threes, wanted to break Clay's record of 14 threes. Curry said, no, shut your butt down. Hopefully we can keep you for more games to possibly make some noise in this tournament in the playoffs. So Golden State's pretty.
Golden State has tied the record for the most amount of threes in an NBA game, but only in Oklahoma City between both their players.
Right.
It's
right.
Ridiculous. Game 6 of a playoff series, and then just a random Wednesday night. To me, at least, I think the play-in tournament, and this is going to sound bad, but I think it kind of cheapens the playoffs a little bit, to be honest with you guys. Like, I think that right now, the Bulls trading for Nikola Vucevic is a great trade, and oh my gosh, can't believe they've done that. Well, Vucevic has been on the team for more than 4 games, and the Bulls have lost 4 in a row, so clearly that trade wasn't like the best idea in the entire world. And that's kind of why I think it just cheapens everything. You've got the Hornets, who their guy in LaMelo Ball, who would have won Rookie of the Year if he kept if he hadn't gotten injured, have lost 3 in a row. Like it's to me, it just cheapens a little bit because you only have 10 teams missing out on the whole deal, right? And this isn't like to me, this is a way to have the bubble without having the bubble kind of stuff, where you had 22 teams make it last year, and this year you're going to have 20 teams technically make, one extra game. Having the 9 and 10 seed play, cool. I'm totally fine with that. I would just say like, okay, the 9 and 10 seed got to play or whatever it is, but the Bulls are 4 games back of the Pacers right now. So like, and the Bulls are 10 games under 500. So we're going to have them play for a chance to possibly play the 76ers in the first round or / the Nets, right? Whoever ends up being that, like, is it really gonna, you know what I mean? Is that even gonna happen? Like the Bulls right now, I guess if they beat the Pacers and the Hornets, stay at the 8 seed, then they'd play each other, right? The Bulls would play the Hornets, from my understanding of this. And then the winner of that would, play the 76ers. Well, if you're the Hornets, all right, hey, we'll win the season or whatever. We don't have the high aspirations. Anyways, the Bulls kind of get a chance to play into it because they had that late season trade, like Joel was saying. But like, no one wants the 10th seed Greg Popovich Spurs, right? No one. None of these 4 teams, Mavericks, Grizzlies, Warriors, or Spurs, want to play each other. And I can't think, if you're Luka Doncic, you're like, let's play the Spurs. Can't wait to play against Hall of Fame coach Greg Popovich for one game, and only one game. I think that's part of it too. But I guess regardless here, who do you guys? I mean, do you think do you think the Pelicans jump in, overtake the Spurs? Do you think that we have some realignment here where the Mavericks catch up to the Trailblazers? Or, I mean, the Lakers seems like it's not possible at all, because I think LeBron and AD will come back before then, but the Nuggets slip a little bit or something because it's Jamal Murray injury. I mean, what do you guys project as like the Western Conference 7 through 10 seeds?
Well, I think that there's also the potential of Aaron Gordon picking it up and carrying some of that slack. I think he's capable of doing that. I'm not sure about the Mavericks. They haven't proven to me that they can keep it together through the end of the season. I don't know if they're driven enough yet, or if they have enough of a good team chemistry, in my opinion. Warriors are kind of I think the Grizzlies are a wild card. John Morant's a lot of fun to watch, but they're not great in clutch moments. I think they're like 1-5 now in those games. So I don't know. It's just kind of a toss-up.
The Mavericks are the only team out of these 4 teams that have a what's the best way to say this? They have a winning record or better against other teams who have a winning record. So the Mavericks are, and I got this stat like a couple days ago, so it's not completely up to date as of last night, but I can only assume it's gotten better. Is that the Mavericks have a 16-13 record against winning teams. They have an easier schedule. They have one of the easiest schedules finish out the rest of the season. On the other hand, so do the Suns. The Jazz have one of the hardest records finish out the rest of the season. Those are the top 2 seeds in the West. They're not getting into the play-in tournament, but I could see the Trailblazers like slipping a game or 2. They've lost 2 in a row right now. Grand scheme of things, probably not the biggest deal losing 2 like that. But I mean, the Trailblazers lose another one, they're tied with the Mavs, right? So I could right now, if I'm predicting it, I'm going the Western Conference standings. Is the Mavericks somehow get to the 6th spot, the Trailblazers slide down 1. And it's the Trailblazers 7, Grizzlies 8, let's say Warriors kind of 9, and Spurs 10. I don't think the Pelicans figure it out and get in. I think we see
Calvin,
10.
Calvin, I can't see the Nuggets staying in that top 6, man. I can't.
No?
I know they beat Miami last night for their first game without Jamal Murray, but I mean, you're talking about a backcourt that started Monte Morris and Will Barton. You already know I'm a huge Michael Porter Jr. fan, and he's killing it right now, by the way. And you remember, he's my preseason pick for most improved player of the year. So obviously these numbers are going to look even better now to finish out the year. I think he scored 9 last 10 games. He's had over 20 something. So he's on a tear right now. And like Zev said, Aaron Gordon obviously He's a scoring machine, big body inside. We already know about MVP candidate Joker, but man, I just feel like that guard play with Monte Morris, Will Barton, and then coming off the benches, Campazzo. Nah, that ain't gonna hold, man. That's not gonna hold.
So my contradiction with that is that this is the last year of Aaron Gordon's contract. So Aaron Gordon is going to ball the crap out, and I think that's. And also here, just coming into it, the Nuggets are also 4.5 games up on the Mavericks right now. So we're saying that, something has to happen in between here where there's only 17 games left in the season for the Thunder. I'm going to say there's about 17 left for everyone. What the Nuggets have played, just math real quick, they played 55 out of 72. So yeah, they've got 17 games left here. So over 17 games, a team can definitely lose 4 and a team can definitely lose win 4. Don't get me wrong. I could see the Nuggets slipping, but at the same point, I think that Michael Ward, MBJ and Aaron Gordon are going to try to prove their worth. Just MBJ is just going to try to prove that MIP award possibly, and Aaron Gordon's going to go no. I want the next contract. I want he's looking ahead or whatever.
Right.
Their backcourt is nothing to write home about and talk about. But as an Oklahoma State fan, repping the Cowboys jersey right now too, Monte Morris killed us in college. Like, I think Morris can play a couple of games and figure it out. And Campazzo or whatever, he's coming off the bench. He doesn't play a lick of defense. But Zev and I were talking about him the other night. We were trying to hoop it up. With a bunch of wind in Oklahoma, we were breaking shots worse than Campazzo. But he
5'10"
passing ability.
5'10".
He does, but I mean, like
5'10".
But I mean, Joker also MVP caliber guy this whole season. So
but that's all true. That's all true, but that's with Jamal Murray in the lineup, taking a lot of relief. Now you're putting a lot of stress, extra shots, those clutch moments that Jamal Murray could capitalize on. Now you're putting it in guys' hands that aren't used to having the ball in their hands late in the game. So now you're throwing it in.
If there were 25 games left in the season, I'd say without a doubt, for sure, the Nuggets are going to fall into this 6 through 10 spot. But because they're 17, I go, maybe they'll have a chance to stay in the top 6. I'm not saying they're complete.
It sounds like me and Calvin got a bet. It sounds like me and Calvin got a $20 bet. Lock it in. $20 bet.
Denver Nuggets fan over a 3-minute period. Well, let's talk. So I guess let's talk about the East a little bit here too. Then, as we wrap this one up. So right now in the East, the 7 through 10, you've got the Heat, Hornets, Pacers, and Bulls. So to me at least. The Raptors might be able to switch out the Bulls. Raptors only 1 game back. But on the other hand, too, here, the Bulls are going to figure it out, right? They're not going to keep losing to make it 5 in a row. I don't know.
Well, you got they just reported
Levine's out for a while.
Yeah, he's going to be out for a little bit.
Who is? Levine?
Zach
Levine's out for a while.
Okay.
14 days is what I read earlier.
Yep, I saw the same thing.
So Raptors might Raptors might grab that spot then.
Wait, the Raptors? Oh, where's Walter at when we need him? I thought you were going to throw the Wizards in there.
The Wizards and Raptors are
what about the Wizards?
You know what? This is how the Wizards. This is the Wizards game plan from day one.
Calvin, fill in for Walter.
Playoffs.
Fill in for Walter right now. Do your Wizards and Westbrook spiel right now. Here we go. Tell us about what the Wizards are about to do.
I don't have the ability to make my voice higher pitched and nasally. I'm sorry that the mic settings here. Let's see, audio processing, noise gate. It's too much work. I'm not going to mess with it too much. My voice sounds great. You know it's me.
Got that good your voice.
Oh, thank you so much here. In fact, maybe because it's Walter here, I will just randomly play some sounds in the background every so often. Regardless here. Or I can change the camera angle so it's only an upshot of my nose. But, yes, the Wizards. The Washington Wizards and Russell Westbrook, who needs a street and a town named after him in Oklahoma. Get out of here, Durant, Oklahoma. You're renaming yourselves Westbrook, Oklahoma. Because Russell Westbrook did so much for the city. And Washington, D.C. Wizards, led by none other than the best player on their team by far and away, of course, Russell Westbrook. Bradley Beal, who? And Russell Westbrook's going to take the Wizards to the promised land of the 10th seed in the East with their current 21-33 record. So, excuse me. Thank you, Joel. I had to remind myself here. With Zach LaVine being out, I can actually see the Wizards to go in anti-tank mode. And in all honesty, without being too much Walter, The Wizards, I think, actually could come up and take that 10th seed. No one's catching the Pacers, though. The Pacers are 11.5 back. Wizards have 5 games they'd have to catch up. That's just not happening, I can tell you guys right now. Now, what might happen here is this jockeying in positions. Pacers might jockey with the Hornets a little bit. And the Heat, I'm surprised, are still 7th. I think the Heat will figure out a way to get out of this where the Knicks somehow will suddenly become the 7th seed. Yeah. They'll suddenly become back again the Knickerbockers.
Well, Calvin, as shocked as I am, and I know if Walter was on the show this evening, he wouldn't have forgotten about the Wizards being potential for that 7-10 slot.
I thought the Wizards were already in the playoffs. I thought they were the 6th or 5th seed, right?
If the Wizards do, which obviously the job's not too hard, like you said, just being literally a game out, they'll be whoever finishes at the 9th seed and they got to play them. That's going to be the scariest 10th seed in NBA history coming in. So talking about Luka's opinion on it. Definitely Russell Westbrook, Bradley Beal, Scott Brooks have the opposite opinion. They are stoked about an opportunity to get into the NBA playoffs if they can get the 10th seed, win 2 games in a row, and they're in. That's unreal.
So here's what I forecast, and I'm gonna make a prediction here, guys. The Wizards get up to the 10th seed somehow, some way. Then they beat the Hornets. Then they play against Joel Embiid and the Philadelphia 76ers and Ben Simmons, and they get swept. But they do get into the playoffs, which is what Walter's whole thing was from the get-go. They get into the playoffs. And we're right now, this is a path that is weaving and navigating itself into fruition. And I can definitely see it happening.
Crazily, yeah.
Is it a guarantee? No, I am not making that guarantee. I would not bet anyone any money on this idea happening.
So we're not going to add that to our $20 bets of Wizards getting in, even just into the play-in tournament. That's an easy one.
Well, I would bet that because I'm not betting them beating the Hornets in the 8th seed. Anything can happen. Gordon Hayward could just go off for one game.
Whoa!
I'm saying in the play-in tournament. I'm saying in the play-in tournament for one game. I'm not going to bet the Wizards to win one game. I would. You know what?
Come on, let's write it down right now.
Wizards to make the play-in tournament. I got Wizards making the play-in tournament. I hate this idea. I really hate myself for it, but I'm going to go for it.
So let's retrace. So this is our bit. So right here. So you are the biggest Nuggets fan for the next 17 games, and you're saying that they will remain 1 through 6, and I am saying they will be 7 or less. Okay, 7 or worse.
All right.
And then we got Wizards. You are saying we're just going to stick with just play-in tournament. I really hope this whole Zach being gone. Maybe I don't know how. Yeah, I'm worried about this bet. I'm probably going to lose this one because the Bulls looks like they're trending south right now.
I feel like one would work out, one would not work out. I feel like I'm willing to make that idea. I feel like a normal NBA fan would go, you know what? I can definitely see the Nuggets staying in the top 6, and a crazy NBA fan saying the Wizards are going to make it. So we're going to have one of each, one crazy idea and one normal idea. Hopefully one of the two works out in this crazy NBA season.
All right, $20 each.
Like yeah, that's good. Last question as we end the podcast here. We have a tank of the week game coming up tomorrow night. Are you guys aware of this? 2 teams who are trying to tank out the rest of the season. Do you have any guesses which matchup this is? It's coming out tomorrow night.
Is it Rockets and Timberwolves?
Nope. The Heat are playing Timberwolves tomorrow night.
Okay. Orlando, Toronto.
Nope. That's not the one I'm going after.
Pelicans, Wizards.
So funny. You just made this bad. Whatever. Nope, that's not the one I was going with either.
Tankathon.
A tank game. A tank game.
Did we said Memphis, Chicago?
No.
Who are you talking about?
There's 2 teams. One Walter would be defending here, and the other one I normally would never mention on a podcast.
Oh, yeah. Oh, I don't know how I overlooked that. I see it now. Yeah, I didn't know if we could say it.
Oh, we can. We're good. As of today, we're cleared.
Today's the day?
Detroit plays Oklahoma City tomorrow night, and I don't know who's going to win this game, but I can tell you what, the Troy Weaver revenge game is happening. I can see the Pistons sweeping the Thunder this season. Pistons previously won in Oklahoma City. I think last week.
Jeremy Grant will go off in his former arena.
It's in Detroit. So
the Pistons are fresh off of the Reggie Jackson revenge game, which he went to work last night.
Ooh, yeah.
I'm not sure how you lose a game like that, unless you're wanting to, which is what I'm gonna say happened. To anyone who's curious, that was a plan. I just hated how SportsCenter started off this whole, and they're like, with Kawhi Leonard and Paul George out of the game, and I was like, oh wait, those guys didn't even play. What? And you know what though? I mean, like Isaiah Stewart and Sadiq Bey look like the steals of the draft last year for sure. So, I mean, really, like Killian Hayes. To be determined. TBD. Oh, the TV got turned up. All right, so that is how we are ending out this one.
There we go. We got it.
Sorry, I'm too full of energy here at this time. I'll try to dull it down and have a couple of drinks before we start the next week. But maybe Walter will just kind of simmer me down. You know, he'll be the really excited one. That's what I say, right? I guess with all that being said here, thank you so much for listening to the latest and greatest episode to date of the CGA Tour podcast. Please follow at the CGA Tour on Twitter, Instagram for more. And we'll catch you guys again soon. Peace.
Later.
Marc Gasol is the leading scorer right now versus Celtics. Unbelievable.
All right, wait. As this song ends out, let's see here. Are the Wizards playing right now? No. And are the Nuggets playing right now? Nope. Joel, I'm gonna cut you off here. I'm winning this bet. You wanna know why?
Why is that?
The Rockets play the Nuggets tomorrow night. That is a W for Denver. All right, we're out. Catch you guys again soon.
Good luck, Campazzo.